Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. We're back again on the Vichy Encheres website, or looking at the catalogue list. So they have three auctions in March on the 16th, 17th and 18th. The auction on the 16th was instruments and wood for making instruments. The one on the 17th, which is the one we're looking at now, is bowed stringed instruments and bows, and the one on the 18th is also bowed stringed instruments and bows. So as always, look over the terms if you're interested in bidding. Look at the kind of additional fees. Looks like it's 24% buyer's premium. A few other bits if you buy online. Check out postage things and stuff like that if you're outside of France. This is a French-based auction. If you're outside of Europe, like the UK is now, then it might be additional charges. If you're in Asia, in the US, etc. So just have a look at all the information. It's all here. You can translate it as well. So yeah, have a look and see what you can find. So there's a lot of lots on this, 397. So without further ado, let's just crack on and yeah, just get into it. So 3/4 Miracle violin with a Quattro label, 20th century Miracle violin with Nicholas Bertolini label, breaks on the table. 20th century Miracle violin with label Marquis de l'Herberd label, fairly good condition. Half-size half-size violin from the workshop of JTL, early 20th century. Another 20th century Miracle violin. I mean, I guess it's a French auction, so we would expect to see a lot of those. Let's quickly have a look at one of the items here. A lot of two violins, including violin early 20th century, bearing the label Maviglio, breaks on the table, and a Miracle violin. So you can zoom in a little bit on these pictures. They're not kind of incredible. We can see something funny. His neck's replaced, and they've just not even bothered to really do the button. So that's curious. And chips to the scroll. And there you go. That needs a bit of repair there. So yeah, so there's a good few pictures. They do give you like some initial kind of information on the condition, but I think you can request more info if you want. So without further ado, let's carry on. Another 3/4 violin, German violin, earliest 20th century, with paintings in system by Nicholas Eugene Semutra. Okay, another 3/4 violin. We'll just kind of skip through them. There's so many lots, so if it's just another 20th century Miracle violin, another Miracle violin there with the companion label, which is quite common kind of trade violin. Miracle violin, early 20th century, made in Breton model, carrying label and mark in Breton iron. Let's just have a quick look at that. 359mm length of back. Remember, that's important for players for kind of comfortability for if it's comfortable for them. Yep. A violin by Joseph Wolff, made in Miracle around 1820. Traces of worm on the neck. It's quite wide. They give us any pictures of the traces of worm on the neck? No, not that I can see, but always good to look at these things in more detail if you can. Half-size violin, 20th century. Another Miracle violin with a Bergonzi label. Another 3/4 violin. Early 20th century label violin with a Capalbo label. Let's just have a quick look at this one in more detail. 358 length of back, good condition. Yeah, the pictures are not amazing, but they're standard. Another Miracle violin, half-size Miracle, 20th century Miracle, Breton iron mark. Let's just have a look at that, because the estimate's a bit higher. It's in quite clean condition. So that's an interesting one. Let's carry on to 21. Another 3/4. I'm just going to skip the 3/4 and the half size unless they look really, really interesting. Let's have a quick look at this. German violin, early 20th century with a Stradivari label. That's probably quite standard, but quite figured. Yep. Another 3/4 Miracle. German violin, late 19th, 20th century Miracle violin, Strad label. Let's have a look. German violin, age 20th century, labelled Luceri, worm bites. There's been a hungry worm. That's not massively inspiring. Another Miracle violin. This is a bit more interesting. 18th century French violin bearing the label Gersan. Numerous restorations and traces of worms. 364mm. It's got long back, so it's going to be uncomfortable for people to play potentially unless you've got very long arms. Sold in collaboration with Cotte Basque Auctions. So there you go. It's in collaboration with another things. This is certainly a lot more interesting than the other ones that we've seen so far, but it's in a pretty bad condition in the top, but nevertheless curious. So let's move on. Violin from the workshop of Liberté Humbert, another Miracle one. I mean, there's just so many Miracle violins in this auction, we can't really look at them all. Some lot of two bows, let's see. Violin Bow from German School, 1960. Gives you the weight, and there's a 3/4 violin as well. Let's see how many pictures you get. So you get the frog and the head. Maybe some of the better bows, there might be more pictures. Viola Bow from Pacehold. Let's have a quick look here. 71 grams in weight, mounted in nickel silver. Okay, so German cello bow, mounted in nickel silver. I think that's pretty standard. Violin Bow signed Sarasate. Violin Bow Usha Pair Workshop in, I think that's Abil wood again, mounted in nickel silver. 56 grams without the lapping. Okay. A whole load of bows, not too exciting. 3/4 bow, all shot pair. Violin Bow signed, made in France, mounted in nickel silver. Usha School Violin Bow. Let's have a quick look at this one. Signed Lupo, mounted in nickel silver, 58 grams without wick and fine garnish. Varnish scrapers, fairly good condition. Okay, it looks very worn. Morizon, Violin Bow, Liberté Cello Bow, two bows including German and Bazin School, German Violin Bow, yep. German School Violin Bow, Violin Beelwood, another Pacehold bow, German Violin Bow, 1900, mounted in silver, fairly good condition. Looks like it needs a bit of TLC. Another German School bow, another Usha, some more instruments, another 3/4 Miracle, another Miracle there, Strad label, another Miracle, Steiner label, got the whole collection, 3/4, another 20th century, 19th century Miracle violin with a Jacot label. Okay, broken handle and torn off heel. Okay, so there you go, the button's broken. And it's 362mm, so it's quite long. So when they say broken handle, I mean basically the neck's broken, so that needs to work. So there's a lot of expensive repairs there on that particular instrument. 3/4. This one's interesting. Violin, late 19th century from Eastern countries. That's vague. Fairly good condition. 360. It's still a little bit big, but probably not as bad as some of the others. It's got the double purfling and fancy kind of purfling inlays. Not as interesting as I first thought. Violin probably made in the Lebert Miracle Workshop. Violin from JTL. Violin made in the Glier Workshop. Another German violin, 20th century. 3/4 19th century. Actually, that could be potentially a bit more interesting. Signed Melentans, fairly good condition. Bit of kind of bird's eye figuring on that. Yeah, it's a bit more interesting than the normal. 3/4. 20th century Miracle violin, detached rear ribs. 358. Okay. Not much info on that, but there's some work to be done. 20th century Viola with Minor Chipatel label, another 3/4, another JTL, Another 3/4. Oh, that's it. We're on cellos now. 3/4 miracle cello. Cello, possibly German school. Okay. A lot of 2 violins, including 20th century Miracle, Strad label, half-size violin. Violin by Nicolas Bourlier in Miracle. Let's have a quick look at this. 366, that's very big. Ooh, fancy, look at that. That is a an interesting thing. It looks like a kind of Napoleonic scene, which you do often get on some of these instruments. Another 3/4, JTL, German 20th century. Let's have a quick look at that. Probably missing lots of interesting stuff. The varnish is kind of interesting on that. That's a bit bizarre. But we can't look at everything, otherwise it'd be a 20-hour video. Violin early 20th century Miracle, half-size violin made in Miracle, 20th century Miracle violin. People probably think I'm really kind of like just rude because I just keep on skipping all of the French instruments. It's just that none of these have looked that particularly interesting recent so far, so, and because we've got so many lots, I'm just kind of skipping through, but I'm sure many of them are very good, and there's some very fine French instruments for sure. Another unknown violin bow, cello stick from the Frechner, violin bow signed Morissot, another JTL bow, Francois Lot violin bow signed Berger. Just see, it's kind of an interesting shape there. It needs to be rehaired. Looks like it's got some damage on the tip. Yeah, there's a small rise chip. Rear beak knot, beak chip, thumb wear, mortise chip, screw and nut. So good condition. There's a lot of restoration there, really, but might be for someone. I want to see if there's any kind of higher level bows that might have more pictures than that. Then another JTL, Bazin, school bows, just lots of rubbish bows. Pierre Cunel violin bow, that's got a higher estimate, 600. They're more confident in that. Rod diminished later, head blows, slight splinters upwards, rod wear, fairly good condition. Not 100%. Another JTL, Bouthold, George Emile Bargenet, 3/4, Liberté 3/4, JTL, 3 bows, Morton, nothing super exciting. Eastern countries, Viola again. This is another one with the Cote Basque auctions. Yeah, nothing too right home about there. 19th century violin, refinished piece on bottom heel. Okay, it's had the kind of cheek patches there, which are a bit horrible. 19th century violin with a Galliano label, without his touch. Yep, that seems about right. It's got a lot of cracks and stuff, needs a lot of restoration work there. Half-size Miracle. It's another German violin, 359. It's fairly standard. Another Miracle, 20th century. Just have a look, just so that we look at some of them. No, not very exciting. 19th century Miracle. It's a bit, some damage there to the scroll. Another one with the Basque, 362. So a lot of larger instruments. Another 20th century Miracle, not too exciting. French province, 18th century rugged table. Yeah, that needs a bit of repair. Not sure about the back on that. That's interesting. Not sure about the description on that one. 20th century Miracle violin with a Viola label. Okay. Another JTL violin, German violin, yeah. German violin with a Klotz label. See lots of these. Key unstuck. Okay. German violin. the Steiner mark on the back. Yeah, pretty standard, as you see quite a lot. Another Mircore violin, French violin, many restorations. Yeah, that one, massive block there at the back, so that definitely needs a bit of TLC. I'm sure someone will find a home for it. 20th century Mircore, another Mircore that looks a bit more interesting with a test story label, bar break on the table, so I presume that means a sound post crack, or bass bar crack, I suppose, actually. So that one's probably going to need some work. Violin from Eastern Europe, early 20th century, Albanus label. Okay. 20th century Mircore, 20th century violin with label from Pinel to Chaumont. Okay. 3/4 Mircore, Eastern countries with a DeSalo label. Interesting perfing there. Large back, 361. Curious scroll, actually. Shame there's not a picture of the scroll front on, actually. I'd quite like to see how that spreads out. It looks like it kind of, from a front point of view, would like flay out a bit like that, but interesting. Yeah, shame. I quite like to see the front of the scrolls of that. Where were we? There we go. Half-size Mircore. Just so we show you some things. 18th century French violin, start of Grand Gerard, bearing the luthier label in Saint Cecile, head replaced. Various restorations of non-original pieces on the table, so you can see the bits here. It's had some repairs, probably in other bits. Lots of cracks. Needs a lot of work there, but interesting enough. Bows again, 3/4 bow, violin from Simon School. Bassin School, Simon School, 3/4 double bass bow, cello bow from Paysold, German School. More bows, Cunel bow, Violin Bow, Abel, Liberté, German School. It's all pretty standard. Another Bassin, it's like a little bit better. Let's have a look. Circa 1890, with rear rise and button, silver mounted, without wickle garnish, good condition. Yeah, it's a shame there's not a few more pictures of the frog. Simon School, Viola Bow, Bazaar, more bows. More bows. Well, we're only on lot 150 and there's like 400. This is mad. Mircore violin with rocker label. I mean, they have a lot of things in this auction. 20th century violin, 19th Mircourt violin, early 20th century with Strad label. I mean, there's quite a lot here. 20th century cello with Colin Mazar signature, 3/4 violin. 20th century Mircore, another Mircore, 3/4 cello, German violin. 3/4 Mircore, 20th century Mircore, late 19th century violin from Eastern countries, with iron marks under the Hopf heel, different restoration, 360. Yep. Charles Flumbo's violin, made in Mircore around 1770, with C. Flumbo branding under the heel, non-original piece at the bottom, and various restorations, 351. So it's a bit smaller. Okay, it's an earlier violin there. Mircore, early 20th century, another Mircore violin there. Half size with some traces of worm. Interesting figuring on the back. That's quite nice. Yeah, you can see that the worm's been hungry. The little beetles larvae. Or 3/4 Mircore, 3/4. Another GTL violin, but let's just have a quick look at this. I mean, yeah, an incredible amount of instruments here, really. Another Mircore, Let's have a look. Eastern Strad label. Yeah, it's pretty standard. 19th century Miracle, another Miracle. Violin by Masson Frere, made in 1896. Yeah, 358. Instrument is over 100 years old. Be careful. The description in English is only indicative. Only description in French will be valid for the guarantee. Okay, that's interesting. So make sure that you translate the guarantee in French then, or the description in French. That's odd. I've never seen that before. How curious. Anyway, violin bow, nickel silver, German violin bow in exotic wood. Half-size violin. Well, interesting. That is. Very curious double bass bow in Abel wood, mounted in bronze, 92 grams, sold in with a Colt Basque. Yeah, that's interesting. How curious. Double case. Another Abel with cello bow, JTL. Lot of two bows, Bazaar. Yeah. Cello bow, Bazan School, half-size cello bow, blah, blah, blah. Two violin bows from Bazaar, German study violin bow by Vichy Encheres, 3/4. Let's have a look at another violin by JTL. Can go past that. 19th century Miracle, 20th century violin Lugdunum name. Let's have a quick look at that. Yeah, it's a shame there's no front views of the scroll. 20th century violin from Eastern countries, with the Scarampella label, or brand even. 20th century Miracle. Lot of 4 violins, including 20th century Miracle. So, there's a whole load of things there. 3/4 Miracle cello, violin at 20th century Steiner, 20th century Eastern countries, 7/8 violin from the German school at the end of the 18th century, light restorations. This is a bit more interesting. Okay. 7/8. 20th century Miracle, more JTL, Miracle, German 3/4, violin early 20th century, broken heel, 20th century Miracle, 20th violin, Caressa label. Let's just quite have a look at this, just for reference. Violin by Thomason, made in Paris in 1829, bearing Thomason's signature. Let's see. It's had a bit of a button break, break on the bottom. Instrument is over 100 years old. Okay. 3/4 20th century violin with the Dogani label, German violin, 20th century violin made in the JTL workshop, 20th century violin with Bardocchi label, some restorations. Okay. French violin, different restorations, another Cotte Basque Auctions. Okay. Violin Eastern countries, 20th century violin with Marconi Lorenzo label. Looks kind of interesting. 20th century Miracle, so the German school Violin Bow. Violin Bow CH Puthold, German school Violin Bow 1930. That looks like it's been taped up for a while. It needs a bit of repair. Violin Bow nickel silver, Bernard Usha. It's got a slight bend there. Small chip mortise wear, small head scratches. Yep. Double bass bow, Nabil, Simon School, German School, Bazaar, Morizot. Let's have a quick look at this. Morizot bow, 1945. Signed Simon, 57 grams. Some wormhole, one-filled wormhole. That's a bit of a, you see that kind of kink there. That's a bit odd. I think that might need to be adjusted. It's a bit strange. I definitely want to look at that in person. That's a bit odd. Bazan School, another bow by Moizon, 3/4 bow, blah blah blah. more just normal violin bows, whole load of violin bows. Here we go, Violin Bow by Marie-Louise Pionneau. Let's have a quick look at that. Mounted in silver, 52 grams, without hairs, all garnish. Chip on the top of the head and back on button markings, fairly good condition. Well, today that's going to need a bit of attention there, but nevertheless interesting. Violins again. 19th century Miracle. Let's have just a quick look at that. Okay, that looks pleasant enough. Another late 19th century violin from the Basque auctions. Similar. 20th century Miracle. 20th century violin. JTL. 19th century with the Grancino label. Okay. French violin, replaced head. Okay. 19th century Miracle, 3/4 half-size cello, quarter-size violin. Earliest 20th century with a Strad label. Let's just have a quick look. 20th century Miracle, 3/4 Miracle, 20th century Miracle. 3 violins. Miracle, lots of repairs. Okay. 3/4 Miracle, 3 violin backs. For those that collect backs. 20th century Miracle, half size Miracle, 20th century Miracle, 20th century violin, another French violin, 3/4, another Lebert Humbert. This is interesting. Violin, late 19th century with Riccozali label, some restoration including broken webs and bars on the table. Okay. Interesting varnish there. Interesting, those F holes are very off, aren't they? That's curious. Violin from the Eastern countries, small modern viola from Miracle. It's an interesting, quite squat size. Half-size Violin Bow de Chat, German cello bow, another Simor, Morizon, Victor Fatigue, more just generic bows, JTL, Beelwood, Bazaar. Let's have a quick look at that actually. Okay. Another Lapierre, Colas, Abbeywood, another bow, Charles Bazaar, Francois Lot. Let's have a quick look at that. Small strokes with the head and wand, very slight slit on the rise, very good state. Okay. 20th century violin, Miracle, German viola, 3/4 violin, 20th century Miracle, 20th century Miracle, lot of 2 violins. Okay, restorations and a 3/4 violin. Definitely needs a bit of work, but curious. Violin made around 1800. Different restorations, including a broken sole on the table, which that must be the sound post crack. Traces of worm, 354. Interesting. Violin from the Eastern countries, quarter-size Miracle, late 19th, 3/4 Miracle, violin Lebert Humbert, lot 4 violins, then you can go past that. Viola by Dominique Salazar, made in Miracle around 1840. Let's see. Okay. 20th century Miracle, lot of 2 violins. Double bass, probably from the German school around 1800. Let's have a look. I've not looked at numerous restorations. Traces of worm. Okay, well, we haven't seen any double basses so far, or many cellos that were interesting. 20th century Miracle. They've had to type in Miracle so many times that they are not even spelling it correctly anymore. That's how many instruments. Half-size Miracle, 20th century Miracle, yeah, Miracle, Miracle, 1900, maybe a bit more interesting. So many Miracle. Yeah, 18th century French violin. Different restorations on the bottom here. This instrument is over 100 years old. Ooh. Okay. Some more bows. Why not? Nickel silver violin bow, German violin bow from Picat School. It's just a stick. Okay, fairly good condition. Morisot, Pierre Cunot, cello bow, Bazar, cello bow, 3/4 cello bow, Herman Richard Frechner, a Beelwood just stick, Bazar bow. This is French school half-size violin bow, Ironwood. Interesting. Lot 32, JTL bow, Bausch bow, Bazar bow, German Violin Bow 1950, Colas bow, JTL bow, Bazar bow, Usha bow. Lot of 3 violins, 20th century violin, German violin, late 19th with an iron mark. I'm just missing out things which are like a lot of 3 violins because they're just not really going to be anything amazing if they're in a lot like that. Miracle violin 19th century, just to save us a bit of time, but you know, go back yourself and have a look at them in more detail. 19th century Miracle violin branded with calcined iron without his touch. He has not touched it. Interesting varnish. 20th century Miracle with a Klotz family label. Miracle, half-size Miracle, German. 20th century violin, German violin, 3/4 German violin, French violin, German violin, Miracle, 3/4 Miracle, violin, late 18th century. Newer table, breaks on the table, you can see it. And yeah, it looks very different in varnish. 20th century Miracle, JTL, Romy Miracle, half-size cello 1900 with a Blanchy label. Let's have a look because we've not looked at many cellos. It's had some other tuners on at some stage. This is a bit more interesting. 18th century German violin, many restorations of the table with several non-original pieces. Yes, that does look like it needs a bit of work, one might say. 20th century Miracle, violin by Charles Clodeau, made in Miracle 1780. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay. German violin bow from Bausch, 3/4 violin bow, Morisot bow, Bazin bow, Emile Francois Auchard. Let's just have a quick look at that. Mortise chip screw nut, small side. Okay. Let's have a quick look. Morisot, Bazar, Morisot, more bows, JTL bow, Bazar, 3/4, JTL, Bazar, 3/4 lot, cello dowels, Lebert violin bow stick, same period. So, well, I mean, what we can say overall, quite an insane amount of items, really. A few kind of interesting things, a lot of tradey stuff, nothing really grabbing me that much, but a lot of stuff, obviously mainly French, makes sense, it's a French auction. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Would like to see a few more pictures of the violins, like the front of the scroll, etc. I think it's quite important, maybe even of the bows, of the underneath of the frog, but otherwise the photos are pretty decent, not amazing, but they're not too bad, and it looks like an interesting auction. I'm sure there's some potential bargains for people. I think my pick of the auction is going to be this French violin with the Gersin label. It's just kind of interesting, suits my kind of like old, slightly battered desire for instruments. So yeah, That's quite cool. Well, I mean, an interesting instrument, and there's still interesting auction even, and there's still another day of stuff to look through, another similar amount of lots. So, wow, you got to give it to Vichy Encheres. They are really finding the items. So yeah, well, have a look at it yourself. Look in more detail. Look at the lots. Link will be in the description, and see how you go. And thanks for watching. Ciao. Many thanks for tuning in to the Musical Instrument Investigator. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, then please like, subscribe and turn on notifications, and watch out for the next video coming soon.